Canadian tourists robbed by bogus cops in Mpumalanga are vowing never to return to South Africa. The man and his family were abducted, assaulted and robbed in Mbombela. ENCA correspondent Devin Morgan caught up with the shaken family as they returned to Canada.
A South African holiday cut short for traumatized CEO Sean Stephens as he heads back into his Canadian offices in Newmarket. The plan was to take his teenage children on a picturesque adventure filled with cultural wonders. But that quickly turned into a harrowing 4-hour ordeal after bogus police officers pulled him over in Mbombela.
And they looked very real. I mean, it did not look like a single light. It was multiple blue lights flashing. And so I pulled over and did what I, as a Canadian, would typically do, which is accept the fact that an officer is pulling me over, and I pulled over to the side. And then when the individual arrived at my window, they were wearing a vest which clearly said police on it.
Stephens says he's battling to forget the nightmare that followed after the bogus officers became aggressive.
So now I'm both hands out the window, tussling with him. And then my mother, I was sitting beside me in the passenger seat, says, "He's got a gun." And the person that opened her door is reached across and is pointing the gun directly at my head about a foot away. And they drove us out to this sort of grassy open area with a cliff. And when I saw that, I went, they're going to shoot us and throw us over the cliff, which they threatened to do. And then they opened all the doors and they came up and they started sort of roughing us up a little bit. And they demanded to see our wallets. They demanded all of our stuff. They started yelling at my children. They started doing other things. They took my wallet from me, which I was happy to give them. And then they took each card out of my wallet and put a sticker on it and took the PIN code and asked me for my PIN. So I gave them my PIN codes to all of my cards. And they said, if these PIN codes are wrong, we're going to kill you and rape your daughter.
Stephens, his children and a young friend of the family were squashed into the back of a Ford Ranger and driven to 3 towns as the attackers stopped at various ATMs before they were set free in the town of Mosoi.
And they even, we stopped at a gas station, they put in gas. We stopped at a club, you could hear the thumping of the music. Like, they went to various places where I presume they were ATMs. I mean, while we were in the back of the pickup truck. So we're cramped in the back of the pickup truck, can barely move, there's no oxygen. We're all sweating, I mean, soaked with sweat because it's so hot in the back of this thing.
Stephens says although he feels the warmth of South Africa and its people, he will never return and fears for his mother, who continues with aid work in Mpumalanga.
Probably the most unfortunate thing that happened was that the assailants also cleaned out her bank accounts as well as cleaned out her orphan project's bank accounts. So all of the money was lost that was going to help for those groups. All the zebras and giraffes in the world are not going to want me to go back to that place, especially with my children.
Stephens says he lost an estimated $17,000 from ATM withdrawals and stolen goods. He says police have been in touch with him since his return to Canada and assured him the perpetrators are being pursued vigorously. Devin Morgan, Toronto.